archaeology has solved many of the mysteries of the ancient past. However, sometimes the evidence to explain the existence of an ancient structure or building simply isn't there. How a so-called primitive society with limited technology managed to construct a building that would challenge even modern methods can have experts scratching their heads. Remote locations away from civilization are similarly perplexing, as are the reasons why people constructed certain buildings in the first place. As a consequence, the how and why for many ancient buildings remains a mystery that can only be answered by conjecture and legends. Here are just 10 mysterious ancient structures that continue to confound the experts today. 1. Göbekli Tepe, the oldest man-made place of worship, constructed before settlements or agriculture between 10,000 and 7,000 years ago. Construction began on a most remarkable structure in southeastern Turkey. Göbekli Tepe consists of 7 stone circles built over a 25-acre hill site. The builders of each ring constructed them from 9 megaliths, formed into T-shaped pillars. These circles are of varying sizes, measuring between 30 and 100 feet in diameter. The builders carved the pillars of the stone circles with stylized pictures of animals such as lions, crocodiles, scorpions, foxes, bulls, cranes, spiders, ants, and snakes, the remains of which were all found around the site. Each completed stone circle was confined by a 6-foot-high rectangular stone wall which builders may have topped with a roof. The stone circles and animal remains all suggest the site had a ritual significance. These remains, coupled with the fact that the central pillars of 3 of the stone circles seemed to frame the place on the horizon where the dog star, Sirius, would have risen around 10,000 BC, have led experts to brand Göbekli Tepe as the world's first human-made temple. However, Göbekli Tepe's builders constructed the monument on the cusp of the agricultural revolution in the Near East. There were no cities, or permanent settlements of any sort, for most people were still nomadic hunter-gatherers. However, to build Göbekli Tepe, a workforce of at least 500 people was required. The mystery of Göbekli Tepe, therefore, is not so much what it was for but how and who were organizing essentially nomadic tribesmen to converge and cooperating in the building of this sophisticated structure. 2. The Göbekli Circle, the German Neolithic astronomical clock that predates the pyramids and combines advanced science with grisly superstition. In 1991, archaeologists conducting a routine aerial circle around the small town of Göbekli in Germany were astonished when they made an entirely unlooked-for discovery. For on the ground below them were the shadowy remains of a previously undiscovered 75-meter-wide circle, cut through at 3 points. In 2002, archaeologists began to excavate the site. Their findings revealed that the Göbekli Circle, as it became known, consisted of 2 palisaded rings, cut through with 3 sets of gates. These gates were aligned with sunrise and sunset at the solstices. The alignment of the gates suggests that Göbekli was designed and constructed as an ancient solar observatory. However, the precision and the astronomical know-how of the designers and builders of the sites amazed archaeologists, because Göbekli was built around 4900 BC during the European Neolithic, meaning the site predated the pyramids. It was in use for 2 centuries before being inexplicably abandoned. However, Göbekli contained an additional, grislier mystery. During the excavations, archaeologists also found a headless skeleton at the southeastern gate of the circle. They also uncovered the remains of fires and human and animal bones with deliberate cut marks upon them. These cuts suggested deliberate defleshing was occurring on the site. Whether this activity related to human sacrifice or a specific type of burial ritual, the curious coupling of advanced knowledge and primitive rituals at Göbekli makes the society behind the construction of the Göbekli Circle a continuing conundrum. 3. Guntaija, the impossible megalithic structure built by a giantess. Guntaija on the island of Malta is the second oldest man-made structure on Earth. The megalithic complex was built between 3600–3000 BC, just as agriculture was establishing itself on Malta. Based on evidence of animal sacrifice and small figurines, experts agree that Guntaija had a ritual significance. What is more uncertain, however, is precisely how an early society with only stone tools at its disposal could have cut and transported the materials used to build the temple. The complex was formed from a series of interconnecting temples surrounded by a single 6 feet limestone wall. Some of the stones used to build the complex were massive, measuring 5 meters in height and weighing as much as 50 tons. Experts are at a loss to explain how an early agricultural society, equipped with no metal tools or wheeled vehicles, could have moved the stones. Some have speculated that the builders transported the vast rocks on rollers made out of small pebbles. However, the locals have a legend which acknowledges if not explains the tremendous feat of constructing Gantyja. Large female statues found on the site suggest the temple was dedicated to an agricultural mother goddess. This goddess is remembered in local legends as a giantess called Sansuna who ate nothing but broad beans and honey and bore a child to one of the local men. The legend tells that Sansuma was the builder of Gantyja, a feat that she achieved in a single day by transporting the stones for the complex on her head. It is for this reason that the complex is today known as the Gantyja or the Giantess's Tower. 4. Khorsabad, the short-lived Assyrian capital built by Sargon II, mysteriously abandoned after his death. In 721 BC, the Assyrian Empire acquired a new king, Sargon II. The relationship between Sargon and his predecessor is unclear from the records suggesting that Sargon may have usurped the throne. Either way, the new king wanted to make his mark. And what better way than found his own capital city? So, 4 years later in 717 BC, work on Sargon's new capital began close to the city of Nineveh in modern northern Iraq. The city was named Dur-Sharuk in the fortress of Sargon or Khorsabad. Khorsabad was designed to outshining any of Assyria's existing major cities and glorify Sargon. This it did with unprecedented style. The new city was perfectly located in rich agricultural land, near ready sources of clay for bricks and mines for the alabaster that would adorn the city's monuments. It was constructed in a perfect square of over a mile, based on the numerological value of Sargon's name. Inside the heavily defended walls, Sargon constructed house, temples, and a 4-story ziggurat. However, the jewel of Khorsabad was its elaborate royal palace. The private royal apartments alone covered an area of 300 meters square alone. The decor of the palace was unprecedented and some survives in the Louvre Museum today. Sargon proved himself an able ruler, adding to Assyria's territory with his military conquests and improving the lives of his people by constructing public and educational amenities. In 706 BC, he finally moved into Khorsabad. However, the following year, he died in battle. Almost immediately, despite the money and effort lavished on Khorsabad, Sargon's successor, his son Sennacherib, abandoned it, establishing his capital at Nineveh instead. Why this occurred is uncertain. However, the Assyrians considered it ill-omened for a ruler to die in battle. So, it could be that they regarded Sargon and everything associated with him as accursed. Either way, the Assyrians never occupied Khorsabad again. 5. Teotihuacan, the pre-Aztec city so advanced it became known as the place where the gods were created. 50 kilometers north of Mexico City is Teotihuacan, one of the enigmas of South America. Founded in the 1st century AD, 1,000 years before the Aztec period, over the next 7 centuries the city grew and developed into one of the largest cities in South America, covering an area of over 8 square miles. As it developed, Teotihuacan became the largest city in the Western Hemisphere and home to some of the largest and most artistically unique ancient indigenous structures in South America. Yet no one knows who built it or why it was abandoned. Teotihuacan was a city of pyramids. Its most famous monument, the Pyramid of the Sun, is the 3rd largest pyramid in the world. This temple, in conjunction with the city's other monumental complexes such as the Pyramids of the Moon and the Temple of Quetzalcoatl, otherwise known as the Temple of the Plumed Serpent, were organized along the city's main street, the Avenue of the Dead. All were geometrically precise and decorated in a style not found elsewhere in Mexico. This impressive ceremonial area only encompassed 10% of the total city area. The rest was dedicated to palaces and other residential areas that housed between 25,000 and 100,000 people. However, in 650 AD, Teotihuacan was razed by fire. Its surviving inhabitants abandoned it utterly and disappeared into the mists of history. Its unique monuments remained to all those who followed, earning the city its Aztec name, which means, place where the gods were created. Today, archaeologists are no closer to solving the mystery of who the people of Teotihuacan were or why they finally abandoned the city. 6. Pumapunku, the 1,500-year-old Bolivian temple complex so precisely built some people believe aliens built it. Pumapunku is situated in the Tiwanaku region of western Bolivia, the area, which the Inca tribes believed the world was created. The site consists of a collection of ruins dated to 530 AD. The visible buildings include an open courtyard, an unwalled esplanade, a terraced mound topped with a platform and a walled eastern court. Geophysics has uncovered more foundations, water conduits and pools. Taken together, the remains are believed to form a temple complex, although damage to its richly decorated buildings caused by the elements and looting have made the deities the temple is dedicated to obscure. However, the biggest puzzle for archaeologists is how the builders of Pumapunku constructed the complex in the first place. For the stone used to build Pumapunku originate 50 miles away from the temple site. Some of the blocks weighed as much as 130 tons, raising questions of how the isolated communities of the region could summon the necessary labor to move the massive stones. However, the technology used to cut the blocks is a greater puzzle. For the stones used to build Pumapunku are so precisely cut that they interlock precisely with their neighbors and hold together with no mortar. This type of precision would be hard to achieve today, let alone 1,500 years ago. The mystery surrounding the construction of the complex is so perplexing that some people claim aliens must have completed the building work. So do you believe in aliens? And comment your opinion about Pumapunku below. 7. The Sphinx, who built it, when and why? And what secrets does it hide? The Great Sphinx of Giza is one of the most enigmatic constructions in the world. Located on the Giza Plateau 10 kilometers west of Cairo, it faces the rising sun, not far from the three great pyramids of Khufu, Khafra, and Menkaure. Known to later pharaohs as Hor-Emmekhet Horus of the horizon, its original function is unknown, as is its exact date of construction. Some experts believe that weathering patterns on the Sphinx indicate water erosion, suggesting that the monument was built between 7,000 to 10,000 years ago when the area around Giza was less arid. However, these marks are found nowhere else on the plateau and may be due to later environmental damage. Others claim that the Sphinx and its neighboring pyramids form a terrestrial map of the constellations as they were 10,500 years ago, making the Sphinx older still. However, as with so much about the Sphinx, tangible evidence that provides solid answers is elusive. However, what archaeology lacks, the imagination provides. Perhaps the most debated mystery of the Sphinx is what lies beneath it. Archaeological surveys have identified various anomalies beneath the monument, prompting speculation of secret chambers and hidden secrets. However, as no closer examination has been carried out, these chambers could just be natural features. 8. Longiu Caves. The mysterious man-made grottos of China found in bottomless ponds. Considered to be the ninth wonder of the ancient world by the Chinese, the Longiu Caves are an unprecedented man-made phenomenon. For the caves were carved by hand and discovered at the bottom of a group of ponds found in Zhejiang province. The grottos were rediscovered in 1992 when a local villager decided to drain one of the supposedly bottomless local ponds. He amazed to discover that the pond did indeed have a limited depth and by the hand-dug cave at the bottom, that was later flooded by the pond's waters. Neighboring ponds were similarly drained and other caverns were revealed. Eventually, 27 grottos were discovered in all, containing rooms, bridges and pools. The largest grotto covers an area of 21,500 square feet and is 98 feet tall, resembling a great hall. All the grottos were found to be close together, in some cases separated by only a thin rock wall. The precision and planning that went into their construction was incredible. Pillars were evenly distributed about each cave to support the ceilings and walls. Those walls and stone columns were also carved with animals such as horses, fishes and birds. The Long Iu grottos represented one of the largest underground excavations of ancient times. Yet no written records have been discovered recording their constructions. There is no sign locally of spoil hills made from the thousands of tons of soil and rock that must have created when excavating the caves. Nor have any tools been found. As a result, no one can explain why they were made or indeed, who made them. 9. Machu Picchu. It holds many questions despite being one of the most important Inca monuments. There are many questions that will probably never achieve answered. Why was it built? What was its purpose? When was it built? Why was abandoned? Why the Spanish conquistadors never knew anything about Machu Picchu? In a way, given its strategic location, it could have been a defense position to control potential rebellions. It is also believed that it was the ideal resting place of the Inca, the largest shrine dedicated to Pachacutec, who saved Cusco from the invasion Chanca. And even could have been a graveyard of women, real virgin, dedicated to deities and the service of the Incas. Generally, all historians agree when said that Machu Picchu was used as housing for the Inca aristocracy after the Spanish conquest of in 1532. It was an important agricultural center, away from the main roads. Still, Machu Picchu remains the great unknown, reason why was not destroyed by the ancient conquerors. After Tupac Amaru, the last rebel Inca, was captured, Machu Picchu was abandoned as there was no reason to stay there. But for now, there is nothing certain about its purposes. No 16th century chroniclers mention that. Since it was unveiled, Machu Picchu has remained a mysterious archaeological monument. However, Machu Picchu is undoubtedly one of the archaeological wonders of the world, not only because it was built on a hill with difficult access, but also because it is one of the urban projects that blend seamlessly with surrounding natural landscape. There is no doubt that these ruins are just valuable to humanity than any of the other wonders of the world. 10. Skara Brae, the Neolithic Pompeii of the Orkney Islands, built in a rubbish heap and reburied in it. In 1850, a storm off the Orkney Islands of Scotland blew away layers of sand to reveal a unique stone-built Neolithic village, constructed sometime between 3100–2480 BC. By modern standards, the settlement, known as Skara Brae, was tiny. It consisted of just 6 small houses, tightly packed together and separated from each other by narrow, covered passages that acted as streets. Inside, the amenities of the houses were surprisingly modern. The stone walls were plastered with clay and equipped with stone-built dressers for kitchen utensils. Each house also had stone-built box beds which were eerily similar to those found around the Scottish Islands in later ages. Although the occupants of Skara Brae successfully lived off the land, by foraging, hunting and fishing, the harsh northern climate would have been a challenge. However, the whole design of Skara Brae designed to insulate and protect its small community. Covered streets and windowless houses aside, the village was also encircled by an embankment which acted as a windbreak for the settlement. However, this windbreak was not purpose-built. Instead, it began life as the rubbish heap of a previous settlement. The builders of Skara Brae simply cut through it to build the houses and passageways and left the rest in place for protection. Skara Brae has often been referred to as the Neolithic Pompeii because of its sudden desertion and remarkable state of preservation. However, the settlement was not frozen in time because of a natural disaster. Instead, for some inexplicable reason, one day the inhabitants of the houses simply upped and left and reburied their village in the midden heap from which they had created it. Everything was left in situ, including the bodies of some deceased members of the community. However, there are no signs of violence. It seems that something unknowable happened to the community that led them to suddenly abandon their cozy home and turn it into a grave.